Now I'm working on the 2008 Kawasaki Concours, and I'm turning the rear turn signals into running lamps. This is the socket from the left side. Of course, it's a single filament and push in tight. With the harness, I will use this plug. I'll splice into my new light socket. And I'll use this plug. Of course, that will render the socket of no value. The bulb that I'm going to use, this uses an 1157 type bulb. This is a General Motors application 85830. And this was not exactly like the socket that I took out, but it's very similar, and I think it can be modified enough to work. Of course, you see this is a dual filament, and I think what I can do, of course, I'll have to work with it some, is use this little tip and this piece here and file these two sides down, and that will replicate pretty closely this light socket. And of course it pushes in here and then turns, and that's what locks it in. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to get the light socket to fit in, and then we'll go from there. Now, as far as the disassembly, the covers for the turn signals, of course, are held in by a screw and they come right out. But I need to take the side panel off so I could get in here and gain access to the back of my bulb. This is the side panel. It snaps into place in the front. It has several Allen-headed screws that hold it in place. Just put it down here, let it rest out of sight. There's a rubber grommet that goes over this. I cut that out of the way so that I could have access to this wiring harness. What I will do is, after I get the lamps in, I will find a keyed 12 volts, and I'll splice into that, and that's what I'll use to carry the running light. I have this ground, and then I'm not sure if this is keyed power or not. If it is, then it's a home run. I'll make up a wiring harness plug in here and we'll be good to go. Of course, the obvious advantage of the turn signal serving as running lamps is I'll go from having just the tail light to having 3 lights on the back. These two will be yellow, and the tail light, of course, red. It's free lights. I don't have to add anything, bolt anything on, change the lines of the bike. And the yellow lights on the highway are very visible from the back. So I'll have the red tail light and then the yellow running lights. And I've turned all of these other bikes, turn signals, I turn all of these into running lamps. So on the back of all of these vintage bikes, I have 3 lights. And yet this is exactly the way the bike looked when it left the factory, except at night all 3 of the lights on the back light up and serve as running lamps rather than just having a tail light. Well, now I have the first socket mounted. I only had to grind off one of the largest bracket on the side of this. I was able to grind off, and I was able to turn the others in. So I'll put this foam gasket goes around that to hold it in place, and this side should be done, and we'll start on the wiring and get the wiring lined up and make sure it's going to work. This is what it looks like from the back side, and of course I don't have my panel off on this side yet. I'll get that off next so I can get in there to that light fixture. Now this is with the bulb installed, a dual filament bulb, and the wiring pigtail. So I will find in here, I'm going to try to find a keyed 12 volt feed, and then I'm going to use the harness off of the old plug, and so I can plug directly back into the bike's harness. The only modification I have to make is for the running lamp, and as a general rule, this brown wire will be my running lamp, but of course I'll confirm that in just a moment. Now I have the left side running light installed, and I'm getting ready to start on the right side, and I'll show you the modification I had to make to the socket to get it in. You can see how nicely the socket has fit in. And it's in there very, very nicely. I spliced into the harness, which is here. This was the original light harness. I made a splice in here and put it together with wire ends. So this is plug and play. This is the ground and the turn signal part. So this is the turn signal. Now, to get the running light, turn that off. This is a keyed 12 volt. It is a black, solid black wire. It may be a brown, but it's keyed 12 volts. The brown wire is your running light. So I'll make a harness and wire both sides together into that, but there is the running light. So I have my tail light here, running light here, and then with the